Windmill Valley, a game focused on having spinning wheels that give you actions upon actions upon actions, and how you use those actions is vital in winning this game. What do I mean? Well, check out the how to play after this small break, and then after the how to play, I will tell you how I think it to go. All right, we are set up for a two-player game of Windmill Valley. I have my player boards on the actual main board just because I don't have enough camera room to show you the boards off of the board, but you'll still be able to get a good general idea. So to set it up, you are going to have your common, uncommon, and unique enhancements set up on the board. The rest are off to the side. You are going to grab some X tokens. I just have a small little assortment right there. You're going to put the bar based on your player count. So if you're a 1 to 2 player, if you are a 3 player, it goes like such. And if a 4 player, you just don't have it on there. We're 1 and 2, so we're going to go like that. You're going to shuffle up the farm enhancements, deal out 3. You're going to shuffle up the foreign trade cards and put them in this spot here. You have your floodgate marker, you have your water level, you have the 3 neutral markers. These get placed in reverse turn order. I just placed them out here for now. Each person gets a windmill board and their little patch board, a build token, their windmills. The first player starts with a white tulip, and it's a different color based along player count. You're going to put one of your small discs on your guilders based on where you are starting player. I'm a first player, so it's on the 4. And again, you have one on the calendar, one up on the 0 the score marker. These you can leave set aside by you, or I put them up here. These are in case you actually get the Queen's Wish satisfied. I have all my tulips off to the side, separated by color. And that is about it. We are then going to deal out 3 of these starting enhancements, or technically it's 1 per player plus 1. So in this instance, being a 2 player, we have 3. And then in reverse turn order, everyone's going to select one. And I will say, you know what, I'm going to select this one, which means every time I build a windmill, I get a point at a gilder. And then this would just go to the top of my board in my enhancement. Say my other player grabs that one. This then becomes the Queen's Wish, which comes up here. And then anytime during your turn, if you fulfill that, you will take your disc and put it to the leftmost spot that's available, getting those points. And then everyone place their discs in the market. And again, I have already done such. So the turn structure is going to go like this. First, you're going to see if you want to adjust the floodgate at all. Once you adjust the floodgate, you are going to move the water level. You are then going to move your wheel a number of spaces equal to the floodgate level. And then you're going to choose one of the 2 actions that are depicted on there to do, unless you have an enhancement tile that has a plus, and then you'll be doing both actions. Alright, so a bit more detail in each of those actions. First, if you are going to open the floodgates, you spend the depicted amount of money and get the points. If you want to go up 1, you spend 1, you're going to get 1 point. If you want to go up both levels, it costs you 3, and you get 4 points. If it's there at the beginning of your turn, you only have to spend 2 to go up there, but you do not get any of the points. Alternatively, if you want to lower it, you can just lower it as much as you want. The floodgate can only go in one direction each turn, so it can't be here, have you lower it, and then spend 1 to push it back up. So once you've decided where it's going to be, so say I spent the gilder, got the point, and now it is at this level, I would then move the water token 1 spot, and then we come over and I'd be moving my wheel 2 spaces unless I use build tokens. Build tokens allow you to increase or decrease the amount that you move your wheel. You always have to move at least 1, and you can never move more than 4, and that is all depicted down here at the bottom of your wheel board. But let's say we move 2, so we go 1, 2. You basically move from red gear to red gear. I now have 2 options to do a build a windmill action or lower the water level action. And then once I've completed my action, it'll be my opponent's turn. Let me go over what each action does individually. I'm just going to kind of rotate this here. I'll start here at the top. If you build a windmill, you are going to find a spot that you are allowed to build to, and the spot you're allowed to build to is any spot that can be traced back to the market in an uninterrupted line of windmills, whether your color or someone else's. So at the beginning of the game, you really have only these various spots that are free that you can build at. But for the sake of demonstration, I have already built a windmill there. My options now are again the free spaces, or I can build on anywhere that I can trace a path to. I will then spend the amount of gilder, so we'll say 2. You can grab it from anywhere on your board, and we'll say that I put my windmill there. You're then going to trace your way back to the market. If you go through any other color windmills, that player gets 1 point per windmill you go through. So if this was my opponent's color, they would have gotten 1 point. You then are going to trigger, in your choice, the fields that you are adjacent to. So in this instance, I would get a white tulip, I would plant, and I would get an enhancement tile. That is building a windmill. And actually, of course, because I built the windmill, because of my power up here, I would get a point and a gilder. So it would basically be point and gilder. Next, you have the farm enhancement. When you get a farm enhancement, you can choose any card in this display and put it on your board in one of 2 ways. Before you take a card, you can spend a gilder to wipe the board and deal out 3 new ones. When you take a card, you have 2 options. You can put it on top of your board, which will unlock a special ability. In this instance now, whenever I do foreign trade, I get 2 points, and I get 1 point for putting them there. Or you can stick it to the bottom of your board, like such, which unlocks an end of game scoring. Let me kind of push that up a little bit. Like such, which unlocks an end of game scoring condition that you will be able to do. Next up is getting an enhancement tile. So you have common, uncommon, and unique. Again, before you take one, you can spend a gilder to refresh the market, discard them all, and replenish them. When you get one, these 2 are free. This costs 1, this costs 2. And when you grab the tile, you can put it in any space on your wheel except for the areas that are active. So I would not be able to put it in either one of these areas. I could, however, plop it in that area there. But we'll say we grabbed this one. Next up is foreign trade. When you do a foreign trade, you're going to look at this card here. If there are no tulips on it, you'll be able to take a tulip from your supply, place it between 2 actions, and do those 2 actions. So if I put it here, that would allow me to grab a farm enhancement card and would give me 3 points. If there are tulips already on here, then you have 2 options. You can do the put a tulip on there and take the 2 actions, or you can take all the tulips on there and bring them back to your supply. Once there are 4 tulips on the card, you will discard those tulips to the supply. You will then rotate the card like such, and now you have a new foreign trade card. You have plant. Planting takes place on this board, and at this time I'll explain your little supply area down here for your tulips. When you put your tulips in here, you fill left to right. If you want to put a tulip on this spot, it costs you 1 gilder. On this spot, it costs you 2. At any time when you are full or don't want to or can't spend that money, you can instead swap out tulips without paying a cost. So when you plant, you are going to grab whatever plant you want, your bulb you want. In this instance, we can do whichever. In the markets, you'll see they have specific colors by them. That means to plant those specific colors. And this is do this action with 2 bulbs. It is not do the action twice. So for actions that trigger, like if you plant something, you would only trigger the action once because you're doing the plant action only once, but you're doing it with 2 bulbs. So you grab your bulb and you can put it in any row in the leftmost spot. So I could even start it there. And then if I fill it in here, I would grab another build token, or you would do whatever else is underneath where you just build, which ranges from getting an enhancement tile, a farm enhancement, money, or points, or even more of the planting action. Next up, we have the market action. So in this instance, it is spend 2 gilder. And then you are going to do 2 market actions. I'm going to give myself just a little bit more money for an example. So you're going to move in the market twice. Before you move, you can spend 1 guilder to move one of the neutral discs 1 spot clockwise or counterclockwise. However, it must then land in an area you are going to visit this turn. So that means with me starting here, and I know I'm going to move 1 and 2, I cannot move this one back to here because I'm not going to be landing there this turn. So we'll say I spend 1, and we are going to push this one up to here. Actually, no, we are going to push this one here. So now I do 2 movements. My first movement is here. It is filled, and I have 2 options. I can instead jump over here to do that one instead, or I can pay my opponent 1 guilder to land on top of their piece. When you land into an area, you are going to choose one of the 3 actions, and you're going to do that specific action as many times as there are discs. However, in this instance, even though there's 4 discs, I'm still going to do it a max of 3 times, because in essence, we are covering each other, so it is still only 1 and not 2 there. So going backwards, so say I move this disc instead, I come here. So now I can choose a white bulb, red bulb, or to plant the black bulbs, and then I would do that action 3 times. So say I chose red, I would simply grab 3 red bulbs and put them down here in my supply box. I would then move again and doing one of these 3 actions 3 times, for there are 3 markers there. The next one I'm going to go over is lowering the water. So if the water level was, say, there, when you choose to instead lower the water level, you will first look to see what section it's in. You will get your choice of the reward. So in this instance, 1 guilder or 1 point. You will then lower it by the amount there of 1 and 2. So that is all the different actions. When you are taking your actions and this red gear arm reaches or passes that red arrow, you are going to move forward 1 spot on the calendar. You are then going to be able to take whatever bonus is listed there and whatever the top bonus is. So in this instance, I would gain 3 guilder. I would then take one of the X tokens and cover that up, and then when my opponent gets here, they'd be taking the 2. The game end is triggered once one person has moved on to the last day. You are then going to finish out the current round, and you are then going to do 1 final turn. You're going to be collecting points throughout the game, and then end game scoring is going to be 3 different things in relation to your tulips. You are going to look to see which windmill sections you have emptied, and you'll get so many points for that specific bulb color. So it goes white, yellow, red, lilac, and black. So in this instance, I would get 2 points for every red. If those 3 were there, that'd be 2, 4, and 6 points. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to look in your patches, and you are going to score points for those. You're going to look down each column, and if you have 2 of the same color in the columns, you're going to lose the depicted points up top. However, if you have 4 different colors, you're going to get the positive points on top. When you look at your rows, you are going to look across. If you have all 7 filled and they are of the same color, you're going to get the higher value points. If you're just filled with 7 but they're not all the same color, you get the lower valued points. You'll then also score points for your bottom contract cards. Most points wins, and there is a list of tiebreakers that basically relate to like how many tulips you might have left, how many windmills, so forth and so on, but those are in the rulebook that you can discover on your own. There you have it. That is how to play Windmill Valley. So let's get into our review. So first up, we are going to look inside the box. If you want to join me inside the box, you can look at that link up above where I will unbox the game for you and show you all of the components inside. But here are my thoughts on those. My thoughts are the components are fantastic. The little wooden windmills are really cool. The player boards are laid out well, and the fact that they have the little holes where the windmills just sit, you get the double layered because your little gilder goes up in that track. Your tulip parts are laid out fine and depict everything well. The iconography on it makes sense. You have your spinning gear boards, and those are just awesome, and how everything just fits in there. The rule book is really well laid out. It's the typical fashion if you've played a board and dice game where they kind of explain the game, explain the concepts of the game, kind of explain the components and stuff in the game, and then they get into how the game plays. And I really like that rule book style because it helps you familiarize yourself with the things before you actually get into playing with them, as opposed to them just jumping in how the game plays and talking about these components. And you're like, what is this actual component? How does this actually work? By them having it just explained in the beginning, it familiarizes you with those things that they're going to be mentioning later. 2 drawbacks I do have. One is with the game and one is with the promo tiles, so you can't really hold that against the game. The board, the actual game board, is quite large. This does take up a ton of table space, and in so doing, like when you're doing the score, you're having to reach over, having the other person manage it, so there is just this big kind of large unruly board. And then the promo tiles that came with it, they didn't have rules explanation, and this game is iconography heavy. So trying to find those icons, and there's not an example of it per se in the rule book. So trying to decipher those icons was a little bit of a hindrance when you put those in. Plus the silver ones, their coloring is slightly different on the back, so you can tell which ones are the promos and which ones are not. So going into the 2-player experience, the only change really in a 2-player game is there's a little bar that crosses off part of the calendar track. You would have seen that in the how to play. It blocks off a certain part for 2, a certain part for 3, and then none for a 4-player game. So that honestly is the only difference with the 2-player. I will kind of hypothesize on a couple other things that I could see happening when you have more players. And that is, I could see windmill use of other players being more prevalent because you are going to have more windmills on the board. With only 2 players, we were each able to kind of go off in our own direction, not really have to worry about the other one. I mean, 4-player, each person could go off one way, but you may eventually start kind of intersecting with each other and getting shorter paths back to the market, which starts giving people more victory points. So there really wasn't much windmill interaction in a 2-player game. Also, I could see the downtime between turns getting a little long with more than 2 players. Because I know sometimes some of Bry's turns took a little while. I know for sure some of mine did, as I had a lot of the pluses, so I was starting to take like 2 actions, and one of those actions was building a windmill, which then triggered 3 more. So if you're having more players doing that between your turns, then I could see downtime being an issue with people who really have an issue having that downtime. Like, I can't see us playing this with the youth at 3 players because they would be checking out by like turn 5 because there'd be too much downtime for them because they like no downtime. So any form, and this I think would just really kind of extend out between turns. So getting into gameplay, I will preface this with a disclaimer and saying we liked playing the long game. We love taking actions. So we never really pushed up the water level or like advanced the game or rushed the game ending or did anything in that regards. So the water level stayed pretty low for us. So we basically went through almost 4 full rotations of our board. So we were able to do basically everything on our turns, in our plays. Like I know both games, I think one game I didn't fill up my tulip patch. I was like 1 tulip short. But like I had all my windmills out. My board, the cards were full, and all stuff like that. So I will say this gameplay review part of mine is based on that. I did play it solo. I'll link that up above here. And the solo play, it did move that wheel a lot more. So I did have a quicker experience in that regards. And that one, that felt tight. That felt rushed. And for me personally, not as satisfying because there's so much stuff I would have liked to accomplish. So I could see if you're a player who likes to try and focus and get one thing done, then that play style would work for you because you could focus on that. You'd be manipulating your wheel and pushing it forward, so you can just focus on those actions. For us personally, we like doing as much as possible, so that is personally how we played. So with that in mind, I will say, and this is what I told Bri when she asked if the game was simple, I said it's as simple as you want to make it. You can make it to where you're not going to be chaining many actions with those pluses on your wheels. I can't guarantee you're going to do well. You might, especially if you kind of rush the game and don't let those other players really get the full advantage of those plus actions. But it is one that you can just, not do much chaining, focus on one thing and maximize and optimize that scoring. Or you can make it complex. Like I said, I had somewhere else I was doing this action, which triggered and this action, which triggered me being able to do the windmills over here, which let me do a couple other things. So it was a more complex turn with things triggering left, right, and center. So it can get complex and a little overwhelming as you're, like I said, because then if you say, put something out here on the windmill, well, that could let you, get some bulbs and then take a market action. That market action could let you plant a bulb. And when you plant that bulb, you are going to get a enhancement tile. When you get the enhancement tile, maybe by getting the enhancement tile, that triggers something else up on top of your board, which is planting a bulb. So now you plant the bulb, which now lets you get a farm enhancement card. So you could have just this huge cascading type of turn going on. And honestly, that's one of the things that really drew me in, made me want to get the game, was that possibility of just having that huge, epic, cool turn that just drives the game forward and just scratches that really cool itch I have of engine building, cascading, chaining, combo madness. So overall, this is a game that we really do enjoy. As I said, I really loved building out the wheel with the plus actions and doing that craziness. The board size and the way that it just takes up so much table space, that was a little bit of a drawback for us because it did seem kind of unruly, like it just barely fit on our table with everything. So and then having your board and knowing you're having to put stuff on the top and the bottom. And then you have the different types of tulips, and like I said, the big main board, and then you have your tulip board, and you have your spinning gears. It is a table hog, and that is something that you need to make sure you are aware of. If you have a small table, good luck fitting this on it. Playing the long game did seem to benefit me more, because in the games we played, I ended up winning quite handily. I think it's because I was able to maximize my engine and my wheel more. And that's something that Bri kind of struggles with, is optimizing those engines and those actions. So she ended up doing some wasted actions where like all of my actions were maximized. So the long game did seem to play into mine better. And so it's one of those games where she really enjoys and she thinks she's doing well until the final scoring. And that did kind of detracted some from her personally. But overall, I will say it go very good. I'm giving this an 8 out of 10. Really enjoyed it. Really loved the gameplay. Really loved the components and everything about it. So that is Windmill Valley. Go ahead down below and let me know what your favorite colored tulip is. Yeah, let's try something different. And while you're down there, you can go ahead and subscribe and ring the bell to be alerted as I post more videos. You can even share the video to share the wonder that is Windmill Valley. And until next time, spin, spin.